Have you ever wondered how to find true inner peace without desperately chasing after it? Imagine bringing serenity and balance into your life in a natural way, without forcing anything. In this video, we'll explore Buddhist wisdom that teaches us to stop running after what always slips away and instead become magnets for harmony and happiness. Get ready for a journey of self-discovery that may completely change the way you see life. Don't chase, attract. The art of letting go, how detachment leads to freedom. Have you ever felt that no matter how much you try to hold on to things, they always end up slipping away? Picture yourself walking along a mountain path, carrying a backpack filled with stones. At first it feels manageable, but with every step the weight grows heavier. Your shoulders ache, your breath shortens, and the climb becomes harder. You keep pushing forward because you believe those stones are important, but deep inside you know that each one represents a fear, an obsession, a tie that no longer serves you. Now imagine placing those stones down, one by one. With every stone you release, the load gets lighter, your pace quickens, and suddenly you begin to notice the beauty of the path around you. That is the power of letting go. Since childhood, many of us are taught that more means better, more success, more possessions, more recognition. We cling to relationships, achievements, and material things as if they were our only source of security. But life is constant change. What once brought us joy may one day become a burden. The problem is not love, success, or possessions themselves, but the fear of losing them. Think about someone going through a breakup. At first it feels as if their whole world has collapsed. They are not only mourning the person, but also the identity they built alongside them. Yet as time passes, if they learn to let go, they discover that life continues, that new doors open, and that their happiness never truly depended on someone else. The issue was never love, it was the resistance to change. Letting go does not mean becoming cold or indifferent. It means loving without fear, enjoying without anxiety, and living without depending on external things for your inner peace. A Buddhist monk was once asked about the secret to his serenity. He replied, "I own nothing, therefore nothing owns me." He wasn't just talking about material possessions, he meant he did not cling to opinions, to the past, or to fixed expectations of how life should be. He flowed with life instead of fighting against it. Often we think that by letting go, we are losing something valuable. But what we are truly losing is fear, anxiety, and the need to control. And in return, we gain freedom. The purest form of love is one that does not chain. The deepest happiness is not dependent on what we hold. And the most genuine success is to be at peace with what is, without needing to cling to what was or to what might be. Try to catch sand in your fist, and you'll see that the tighter you squeeze, the faster it escapes between your fingers. But if you open your hand, it rests there effortlessly. Life is the same. When we hold on out of fear, it slips away. When we allow it to flow freely, we can finally enjoy it. The practice of meditation, cultivating inner peace. Imagine your mind as a lake. When storms rage above, the water is agitated and cloudy, and you cannot see the bottom. But when the winds calm, the surface settles and suddenly the depth becomes clear. Meditation works in the same way. It is not about stopping your thoughts or forcing silence, but about allowing the mind to settle so its true nature can emerge. We live in a world that constantly pulls us to be busy. From the moment we wake up, our minds are filled with noise, emails, conversations, worries, distractions. Thoughts bounce from one to another like a restless monkey jumping from branch to branch. In that storm, we forget the most essential thing, to simply be present in our own lives. Meditation offers us a way out of that endless restlessness. It is not a privilege for monks in distant monasteries, nor for people with perfect lives. It is a practice for anyone, anywhere, at any time. At the beginning, it may feel uncomfortable. You sit in silence expecting peace, and instead you face a flood of thoughts. You remember unfinished tasks. You worry about tomorrow. You get restless in the stillness. But that is part of the process. Just like muddy water, the mind needs time to become clear. Each conscious breath, each moment of presence, slowly clears the surface. A teacher once said that meditation is not about reaching a special state. It is about realizing that what we seek has always been inside us. Peace does not come from the outside. It is born from how we relate to the present moment. When we stop resisting what is happening right now, a space of calm appears where before there was only noise. To meditate is not to block thoughts, nor to enter a trance. It is to observe them without getting caught, to witness the mind without reacting automatically. It is like standing by the riverbank and watching the water flow without feeling the need to jump in. When we practice this, we realize we are not our thoughts nor our emotions. We are the awareness that observes them. Over time, meditation reshapes the way we live. We become more patient, less reactive, more aware of what is happening within and around us. Situations that once overwhelmed us lose their power. We learn to pause before responding, to listen before judging, to be present before rushing ahead. Think of a single candle flame in a dark room. The light is small, yet it illuminates everything around it. Meditation is like that flame. It doesn't change the outside world, but it lights up our inner world, giving us clarity and serenity. It is not an escape from life, it is the way to live it more fully. Living in the present, the power of mindfulness. Imagine sitting down to enjoy your favorite meal. The aroma fills the air, the flavors are rich, the texture is just right. But instead of savoring it, your mind drifts away. You're replaying a conversation from yesterday, planning what you'll do later, or worrying about something that hasn't even happened yet. Before you know it, the plate is empty, and you hardly tasted a thing. That is how many of us live. Our bodies are in one place, but our minds are elsewhere. Lost in the past, worried about the future, distracted by countless thoughts. We carry regrets about what is already past and anxieties about what has not yet arrived. And in doing so, we miss the only reality that truly exists, the present moment. Buddhism teaches us that mindfulness is the key to living fully. It is not simply a meditation technique, but a way of being in the world. To live mindfully means to give our full attention to what we are doing, to feel each moment with presence, without being pulled away by unnecessary thoughts. When we live this way, even the simplest actions become rich and meaningful. There is a story of a seeker who spent years chasing enlightenment. He visited temples, read sacred books, practiced many techniques, but peace always seemed just out of reach. Finally, he went to a teacher and asked, "What is the secret of awakening?" The teacher replied, "When I eat, I eat. When I walk, I walk. When I breathe, I breathe." The seeker was confused. "But everyone does that," he protested. The teacher smiled. "No. When you eat, you are thinking of 1,000 other things. When you walk, you are worrying about the future. When you breathe, you hardly notice you are alive." The difference is not in what we do, but in how we do it. We live in a culture that constantly pushes us to do more, to move faster, to prepare for what's next instead of being where we are. Multitasking has become a badge of honor, but in truth, it robs us of presence. We sit in a conversation, but check our phones. We work while dreaming of rest, and when we rest, we feel guilty for not working, and life slips past unnoticed. Mindfulness invites us back to simplicity. It invites us to reclaim the ability to be fully present. Eating, walking, breathing. These are not just routine actions. They are opportunities to wake up, to connect with life in its purest form. When we eat, we can actually taste the food, feel the texture, notice the aroma. When we walk, we can sense the ground beneath our feet, the rhythm of our steps, the air brushing against our skin. When we listen, we can hear someone fully without preparing our answer before they finish speaking. Every moment has something to offer, but only if we are present enough to receive it. One powerful exercise is mindful breathing. You don't need a special place or much time. Just pause, close your eyes if you wish, and focus on the sensation of air moving in and out. The mind will wander, but each time you bring it back to the breath, you are strengthening your capacity to be present. Another practice is mindful walking. Instead of rushing from one place to another, slow down. Feel each step as it touches the ground. Notice the sounds around you, the temperature of the air, the rhythm of your body moving through space. Even a short walk can become a meditation if you give it your full attention. The benefits of mindfulness go beyond a moment of peace. Much of our suffering comes from being trapped in thoughts of the past or fears of the future. But the past is gone and the future hasn't yet arrived. Only the present is real. When we learn to stay here, we release unnecessary worries, we respond instead of reacting, and we find beauty in the everyday. Life stops feeling like an endless list of things to do and becomes a series of precious moments. If you've ever watched a child at play, you've seen pure mindfulness. The child is completely absorbed in what they're doing, not thinking about what comes next or what happened before. They are immersed in joy, in presence, in the moment itself. That capacity is still within us. Mindfulness is the path back to it. It is not about changing what we do, it is about changing how we live it. Eating, walking, working, resting, every activity can be an opportunity to wake up, to connect deeply with life as it unfolds. And when we learn to live in the present, we discover that happiness was never something to chase. It was here all along, waiting for us in this very breath, in this very moment. The law of karma. Actions that attract well-being. Every action we take plants a seed. Each thought, word, and deed is like dropping something into the soil of our lives. Some seeds sprout quickly, others take longer. But eventually, every seed produces fruit. This is the essence of karma. It is not some distant cosmic judgment, nor a punishment handed down from above. It is simply the natural law of cause and effect. Often when we hear the word karma, we imagine dramatic situations, someone doing harm and then being struck down by fate. But karma is present in the small and ordinary moments just as much as in the big ones. A kind word to a stranger can brighten their entire day. A careless remark can leave a wound that lingers. A generous act can ripple outward in ways we may never see. Think of a farmer. He does not expect to eat the day after planting his seeds. He understands that the harvest takes time. In the same way, the results of our actions do not always appear immediately. Sometimes it may even seem as if harmful behavior is rewarded, or as if good deeds go unnoticed. But just as some seeds take longer to break through the soil, karma unfolds in its own time. There are lives built on lies, greed, or selfishness that may look successful on the surface for a while. Yet eventually, what is unstable will collapse, not because the universe punishes, but because nothing built on imbalance can endure forever. At the same time, small acts of goodness may seem invisible at first, but they create the conditions for well-being, both within ourselves and around us. Karma also teaches us an important truth. We cannot control the actions of others, only our own. Many times we suffer because someone hurt us, and we long for justice or revenge. But holding on to resentment only poisons us further. To act wisely is to let go of the desire to control outcomes, and instead focus on the seeds we ourselves are planting. Imagine someone who responds to cruelty with anger. They plant more seeds of pain which grow into more suffering. But if that same person responds with patience, compassion, or dignity, they plant a different kind of seed, one that may transform the entire situation over time. There is a saying, if you want to know your past, look at your present. If you want to know your future, look at your actions today. Every choice we make is shaping what comes next, and it is never too late to start sowing differently. To attract well-being into our lives, we must become sources of well-being for others. It is not only about avoiding harm, but about actively cultivating good, showing generosity, practicing honesty, acting with compassion, treating others with the same dignity we wish to receive. These are all seeds that transform the soil of our lives. If we want a future filled with harmony, the time to plant wisely is now. Karma is not a distant philosophy. It is the daily reality that every moment offers us. The question is not whether it works, but what kind of seeds we choose to plant today. Compassion and empathy. Connecting heart to heart. One of the most powerful teachings in Buddhism is that none of us live in isolation. Our lives are woven together in ways we often don't see. The food we eat comes from the labor of farmers. The clothes we wear are stitched by unknown hands. Even the air we breathe is made possible by trees we didn't plant. When we pause to realize this, compassion becomes not just a moral choice, but a natural response. But what is compassion truly? Many people confuse it with pity or weakness. They imagine compassion means letting others take advantage of us, or tolerating harmful behavior. Yet compassion is something much deeper. It is the capacity to see the suffering of others as real, as if it were our own, and to respond with wisdom and care. Compassion is not passive, it is active. It is a strength, not a weakness. There is an old story of a young traveler who, exhausted by the cruelty of the world, asked a wise elder, "Why is there so much pain, so much selfishness, so much injustice?" The elder pointed to a crooked tree in the forest and asked, "Do you hate the tree because it does not grow straight, or do you accept it as part of the forest?" In the same way, compassion means looking at the world and at each person with understanding rather than judgment. When we practice compassion, we begin to see what lies beneath people's actions. The stranger who seemed rude may be carrying years of loneliness. The person who lashes out may be drowning in their own unresolved pain. Compassion does not mean excusing harm, but it does mean refusing to let hatred be our response. It means remembering that suffering often hides behind anger, cruelty, or indifference. In Buddhism, there is a practice known as metta bhavana, or loving kindness meditation. It begins with wishing well for ourselves. May I be happy, may I be at peace, may I be free from suffering. Then step by step, we extend those wishes outward to loved ones, to neutral people, even to those we've had conflicts with. At first, it may feel unnatural. Why should I wish happiness for someone who hurt me? But as we practice, we realize that resentment is another stone in our backpack. Letting go of it frees us just as much as it frees the other. Compassion is like learning to float in a river. If we fight against the current, we exhaust ourselves. But if we relax, the water carries us. An old teacher once said, "I do not fight the river, I flow with it, and the river sustains me." Compassion is that flow. When we stop resisting the reality of suffering, our own and that of others, we begin to move with life, not against it. And something remarkable happens when compassion grows in us. Our relationships transform. We start listening without planning our reply. We help without expecting a reward. We see beauty in the imperfections of others, and we understand that they, like us, are works in progress. In easing the suffering of others, we discover that our own suffering becomes lighter. The world does not change through speeches or declarations, but through small, consistent acts of kindness. A gentle word, a genuine smile, a moment of patience in a heated situation. These are seeds of compassion, and they ripple out far beyond what we can see. Compassion and empathy connect us heart to heart, reminding us that we are not alone in this vast web of life. And when we choose compassion, we are not only healing others, we are also healing ourselves. Voluntary simplicity, finding richness in less. We live in a culture that constantly whispers or shouts that happiness is found in more possessions, more success, more recognition. Yet over and over again, people discover that the more they acquire, the less satisfied they feel. It is like drinking salt water to quench your thirst. The more you consume, the more parched you become. Buddhism offers us another perspective. That richness is not in accumulation but in simplicity. Voluntary simplicity is not about deprivation, nor about rejecting everything the world offers. It is about choosing what truly matters and letting go of what weighs us down. Imagine packing for a long journey. At first, you stuff your bag with clothes, shoes, accessories, just in case you might need them. But as the miles pass, the bag feels heavier, your steps slower, and soon you realize that half of what you carry is unnecessary. The truth is, you only use a few essentials while the rest becomes a burden. Life is much the same. We fill it with obligations, possessions, and expectations, only to realize that much of it distracts us from what we really value. A wealthy man once visited a wise monk. The man was surprised to see that the monk lived in a small hut with almost nothing inside. He asked, "Where are your possessions?" The monk smiled and asked back, "And where are yours?" The man replied, "I am only passing through." The monk nodded. "So am I." This story reminds us that everything we own and even the identities we build are temporary. Voluntary simplicity is not a forced renunciation, but a conscious choice to free ourselves from what does not serve us. It is an act of clarity, realizing that we do not need to fill every corner of our lives with objects or distractions to feel complete. Simplicity also applies to our inner life. We clutter our minds with grudges, comparisons, and endless what-ifs. We carry resentment toward people who hurt us, expectations that life must unfold a certain way, or anxiety about things beyond our control. Voluntary simplicity means letting go of this inner excess as well. It is choosing not to carry more than we need in our hearts. Some of the most profound peace can be found in moments of simplicity. Standing on a mountaintop, feeling the wind on your face, hearing only silence and seeing the vast horizon. In such moments, we realize that joy does not come from excess, but from presence. The fewer distractions we carry, the more space we create for gratitude, for wonder, for life itself. A monk once said, "You can have many things and feel empty, or have very little and feel complete. The key is not in what you possess, but in your relationship with what you have." If we depend on objects to feel good, we become their prisoners. But if we learn to appreciate the essentials, we discover a freedom that cannot be bought. Voluntary simplicity does not ask us to abandon the world, but to live with wisdom. To ask ourselves, does this add meaning to my life? Does it bring peace, or does it add weight to my journey? Each time we choose less clutter, both outwardly and inwardly, we open more space for peace, clarity, and freedom. Simplicity is not a lack. It is a fullness born from letting go of what is unnecessary. And in that letting go, we find richness that no possession can match. Integrating Buddhist wisdom into everyday life. Buddhist teachings are not meant to stay in temples or books. They are living practices, tools we can bring into the smallest details of daily life. The real transformation happens not in theory, but in the way we walk, speak, listen, and breathe each day. Wisdom only becomes real when it shapes the way we live. There is a well-known story of a disciple who once asked his teacher, "How can I apply Buddhism in my daily life?" Instead of answering with philosophy, the teacher poured a cup of tea and handed it to the student. Confused, the disciple waited for more explanation. The teacher finally said, "Start with this. If you can drink tea with awareness, you can live your whole life with awareness." What the teacher meant is simple, yet profound. Every action, no matter how ordinary, is an opportunity to practice. When you drink a cup of tea, notice its warmth, its aroma, the sensation of holding the cup in your hands. If you can be fully present in that moment, you are already practicing mindfulness. The challenge is that modern life pulls us in many directions. We are often in a rush, juggling responsibilities, glued to screens and chasing endless to-do lists. It can feel impossible to bring Buddhist wisdom into such a chaotic rhythm, but it is precisely in the middle of this busyness that these teachings become most powerful. Think about the practice of meditation. It does not require hours in a silent monastery. Even one conscious breath before a meeting, or a minute of stillness before responding to a message can change the energy of the moment. These small pauses remind us that peace is not somewhere far away. It is available here and now if we choose to return to it. Or consider compassion. We often imagine it as something grand, like dedicating our lives to service. But compassion is also found in holding the door for someone, speaking kindly instead of harshly, or listening with full attention when a friend shares their struggles. The Dalai Lama once said, "Be kind whenever possible." It is always possible. These small acts are not minor. They ripple outward, changing not only others but also ourselves. Karma, too, is lived moment by moment. Every word we speak, every intention we carry, every choice we make is shaping the path ahead. If we are mindful of this, even simple actions take on meaning. Choosing honesty when it would be easier to lie. Choosing patience when irritation arises. Choosing generosity even in small things. These decisions create a life that aligns with wisdom, rather than with fear or craving. And then, there is simplicity. In a world of constant consumption, simplicity becomes a radical act. It is not about giving up everything, but about choosing with clarity. Do I need this object, this commitment, this worry? Or is it only adding weight? Simplifying our homes, our schedules, and our minds creates space for what truly matters. When we integrate Buddhist wisdom into daily life, we stop separating spirituality from the rest of existence. Washing the dishes becomes meditation. Driving to work becomes an opportunity to practice patience. Conversations become a chance to listen with compassion. Every moment, no matter how mundane, becomes part of the path. It is important to remember that this integration is not about perfection. We will still lose patience, still get distracted, still make mistakes. But Buddhism does not ask us to be flawless. It asks us to return again and again to awareness. Each time we catch ourselves drifting and come back to the present, we are practicing. Each time we choose kindness over anger or presence over distraction, we are bringing wisdom into life. There is a saying, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. The point is that the outer actions may look the same, but the inner quality changes. The difference lies in how we approach life, with awareness instead of distraction, with compassion instead of indifference, with freedom instead of clinging. In the end, Buddhist wisdom is not about escaping the world, but about living fully within it. It is about transforming how we relate to ourselves, to others, and to each moment. The practices are not separate from life. They are life. When we integrate them, every step, every breath, and every choice becomes a path toward peace. From chasing to flowing, trusting life's natural rhythm, much of our suffering comes from the constant habit of chasing. We chase success, we chase approval, we chase happiness as if it were always running just ahead of us. And the more we chase, the more exhausted we become, because life was never meant to be pursued. It was meant to be lived. Buddhism invites us to shift from chasing to flowing. Flowing means trusting the natural rhythm of life, recognizing that not everything needs to be forced. Just as rivers find their way to the ocean without struggling, our lives also unfold with a natural intelligence if we allow them to. Imagine standing in a river, trying to walk against the current. The water pushes against you. Each step becomes harder. Your strength begins to fade. But if you turn around and move with the flow, the river carries you effortlessly. This is the difference between chasing and flowing. Chasing means fighting against the current of life, demanding that things bend to our will. Flowing means moving with life, allowing it to guide us and trusting that the current will take us where we need to be. This does not mean giving up on effort or discipline. Flowing is not passivity. A river still moves forward, shaping valleys and nourishing fields along the way. But it does so without resistance. In the same way, Flowing through life means acting with intention, but without the tight grip of control. It is doing our best, then releasing the outcome. Think about the times when life felt most harmonious. Often it was not when you forced things, but when they unfolded naturally. The right opportunity appeared when you stopped obsessing over it. A friendship blossomed when you weren't searching desperately for connection. Peace arrived in the quiet moments when you weren't trying to manufacture it. Trusting life's rhythm requires letting go of the illusion of control. We cannot control the thoughts of others, the shifts of circumstance, or the passing of time. What we can control is the way we show up in each moment, with awareness, with compassion, with openness. When we do this, we begin to notice that life supports us more than it opposes us. There is a phrase often shared in Buddhist circles: let go or be dragged. When we cling, when we chase, when we demand that life obey our expectations, we end up dragged by frustration and disappointment. But when we release that grip, we discover a surprising freedom. We begin to trust the unfolding even when it does not look like what we imagined. Flowing with life does not mean we will never face challenges. Rivers also pass through storms, rocks, and obstacles, but even then, the river finds a way. Sometimes it goes around the rock, sometimes it carves a new path. Likewise, when difficulties arise, flowing means meeting them with flexibility instead of rigidity, with trust instead of fear. To stop chasing and start flowing is to recognize that fulfillment cannot be hunted down like a prize. It grows naturally when we align with the present moment, when we live with clarity and compassion, when we allow life to move through us, instead of trying to control every detail. At the heart of Buddhism is this simple, liberating truth. You do not need to run after happiness. When you stop chasing, when you open your hand instead of clenching it, when you let the river carry you instead of resisting, it is then that peace, joy, and freedom find you. So the invitation is clear. Stop running, stop forcing, stop chasing. Trust the flow of life. Don't chase, attract. If this message has touched you, take a moment to reflect. What is one thing you feel ready to let go of today to make space for peace? Share your reflection in the comments. And if you've made it this far, write this simple phrase in the comments: don't chase, I flow. That way, I'll know you stayed with me until the end and that this teaching resonated with you. If you found value in this video, share it with someone who might need this reminder. Together, we can spread a wave of awareness and compassion. Don't forget to subscribe for more Buddhist wisdom for everyday life. Until next time, remember, you don't need to chase, just flow, and you will attract what truly matters.